No, we'll start with our first question. Our first question that I've got is from Terence. It was on emails, and it was, I have two sets of clubs, one of which I keep abroad, and they are almost identical except from the irons have different shafts in. So one's got steel, one's got carbon, I assume graphite. Would I expect there to be a difference? If so, what would I notice? And if it's any use, I'm a 21 handicap. Yes, we will expect a big difference between steel and graphite shafts. In our own testing, some of the testing I've done with my college group, we put in, as a trial basis, we put in a steel shaft and a graphite shaft. Interestingly, we didn't see no difference in terms of dispersion, so whether you hit it left, right, but we did see a massive difference in front to back dispersion. So the ball was launching completely differently and it was spinning completely differently as well, which is going to have a massive influence on how far the golf ball's going. So to my surprise, I thought we'd see more of the face closing and opening more or less when we went steel to graphite. But in this example, with this trial that the lads conducted, we saw a more front to back dispersion difference. So there will definitely be a difference. There'll be a difference in feel because of the weight, and that will affect swing weight. So to put it in one way, yes, there will be a massive difference. Going forward, try and find which one you prefer, which one you like the feel of, or come and get fitted. If you get fitted, we'll not just tell you if you're steel or graphite, we'll also put you into a set of specific shafts. So even between steel and graphite, there's a lot of difference in those categories, in weights, swing weights, flexes, lengths, and that's before we've even got onto the club head itself. So there's a lot of difference there. Danny Chapman, welcome. I suppose you got on the pre-lockdown bald hype before everyone got their shears out. So who's laughing now, Danny, hey? Next question, it was from Nigel. And it was, is it possible to have my own clubs tested for loft? Today, 7 irons start at 29 degrees and go up to 34 degrees. I would want to know my own loft before trying a new club so I can judge the relative performance. Nigel, fantastic question. Club fitting, one of our massive points is how we fit for loft. So you are correct. A lot of new clubs are coming through really strong. Some are even got down to 28, 27.5 degrees of loft, which traditionally would have been much closer to a 6 iron, 5 iron probably, than it is to a 7 iron. All of our demo heads come in 7 iron, standard loft, but one of the first things that we can do in a fit-in to have a direct comparison to yours is check the loft on your current clubs. So it's one of those where distance will be found with strengthening loft, but we're also looking at how well you can land the ball, so how steep you land it, and the spin rate you're putting onto it. So there's no point us giving you 10 extra yards if your ball flight has now gone flatter and you can't land a 7 iron into the green and get it to stop. So we're definitely well aware of loft, and we have a new digital line loft machine as well, which we're using for fitting to either alter clubs or even to measure clubs, so we can measure what yours are before we get started. Loft is definitely a big debate at the minute because we have a lot of people saying clubs are getting really strong. They are, but club manufacturers are not stupid. They don't make clubs long for the sake of them being long, and they don't make the loft stronger for the sake of them being stronger. They can only do it if they get the launch parameters and the correct spin parameters as well. Because we're brand agnostic, we don't hold on to anyone more than anyone else. But part of our job is to identify what lofts are working for you and what head design is working for you as well. So real interesting point, and we're definitely aware of loft changes. We have a database actually of all the lofts of our custom fit clubs in our bay. Next question. Another one that come through on emails was from Sam. Which is the best budget launch monitor? My Golf Spy did a test on this. They done budget launch monitors and said which one was the best and compared them directly to their GC Quad. So I would encourage you to go and go and listen to that. They've done a blog on it on their website, and they also done a podcast on it. So I definitely recommend going to watch that. In our personal experience, personal launch monitors have a variant degree of challenges with the spin rates they get and the distance they get. I've had a couple of clients come in with some personal launch monitors, and they've gave me some smash factor readings off their driver, which definitely are not correct. We know that for a fact. It's virtually impossible. So some are good for the value of money, but you have to be aware of the limitations of them, and also if they are going to make you better. So what is the point in doing some? Obviously, we're all in lockdown at the minute, so if we can hit some golf balls and get some data, fantastic. But what are we going to do with the data? What are we actually looking at? And is it going to help us get better is the key, which we will come on to, because somebody has asked a great question as well about technology. Alex Beckett is watching. The throwback. How are we, son? Hope you're well. Next questions come through on email from Gordon, and is, why do I keep hitting behind the ball? Gordon, I'd love to unveil all the secrets right now, but the truth is I have no idea why you're hitting behind the golf ball. It could be due to a number of factors, and it will be to do with your swing. The guess is that something is lengthening the arc of your swing. It's our job as coaches to find out what is lengthening that arc and how can we control your low point to stop you hitting behind it. We've had at least 3 or 4 people who have asked us some home drills that you can do whilst in lockdown. Fantastic. People are thinking about their golf game, which is great. The drills which your coach has gave you are definitely one that you've got to be repeating. Check in with your coach. We're all certainly available through our social media platforms, so don't be afraid to get in touch. Your drills will be specific to you. I'd love to sit here and give everyone 10 drills on what would be the best thing to do during lockdown, but unfortunately 5 of them probably aren't even going to be useful to you, and the other, let's say 3 of them, will also might not be effective. So out of 10 drills you might only get 1 or 2 that will be beneficial. So get in touch with your coach, somebody who knows your golf swing well. Get in touch with one of us. We're literally sitting around with nothing else to do all day, so get in touch through one of our social medias, and we'd be happy to give you some help with some drills if you need to. One of the things, it doesn't have to be swinging a golf club. You could be working on some other things. You could be looking in and learning on some other subjects as well. So if you'd like to learn on some more golf topics, why don't you pop onto our website, have a look at some of our blogs, and that'll identify some other areas that you might be interested in as well. So you can do some learning, not just drills. Harry, it's your time to shine. Harry Brister, favourite piece of coaching technology was his number 1 out of 4,000 questions, of which 2 were relevant. My fave piece of coaching tech is very interesting. Coming from my background and my experience, I thought it would be 3D. I love 3D. It's an amazing bit of kit, but the more I work with pressure, the more I enjoy working with it. I think pressure is definitely where I'm starting to find a little bit more enjoyment. Like I said, I love working with 3D. 3D is fantastic. It tells us a lot about your movements, but how we work through the ground is one that I'm more new to, and therefore I think my passion for it has come from a slightly different angle. So yeah, I really enjoy working with pressure, but 3D is fantastic as well. And my favourite golf hole in Norfolk, personally, there's too many to choose from. 5 at Sheringham takes a beat. 5 at Sheringham is beautiful. 16 at Barbara is one hole I always look forward to. Round, no matter how I'm playing, no matter if I'm shooting 89 or 69, it is 16 at Barbara is always a hole to look forward to. Where else? 18 at Swaffham. Every time I stand on that tee that is a great hole, fantastic hole. Yeah, I'll give you 3 there. There's definitely some more. There's some great courses. I'm sport for choice here. Spoiled for choice. He's got another one. Hybrid or long iron? Hybrid all day long for me. Very personal choice, but hybrid all day long. I carry a 4 iron tops, and then I am on to a hybrid at 3. I did used to have a 3 and a 4, but found the 4 was a little bit challenging to control the flight of. It always wanted to go high on me, whereas the 4 I could trap low as well. So very personal decision. Same with the tour guys, and same with the everyday weekend golfer. It's a personal decision based on what's best for you, based on what launch you need, based on what distance you need, based on how you like the look, based on how you like the feel. Very personal whether you want to go hybrid or long iron. We had a question from Aaron Stuttard. What should move first in the downswing? Very good. The transition, so as we go up to the top, as we start to transition into the downswing, we typically work from the ground up, or the best players in the world work ground up. So that means we start with our hips or our pelvis, our chest, torso, and then we go on to our upper arm and shoulder, and then we go on to our hand. So we see too many people get the wrong sequence, and this is called the kinematic sequence for those of you that are interested. We see too many people start with the hands or the arms first, which throws the club typically outside and mainly ends up in you slicing it. So how can you effectively work from your hips first, then your chest, then working through the arm joint, down through the shoulder arm, and then down into your wrist? So great question. It's one that comes up often in a lesson. If we watch a lot of other sports which have some sort of rotational throwing movement, baseball, American football in their quarterbacks, cricketers, the last thing that moves tends to be the hand. And this is very efficient, and they're doing it because it is the correct way, and it often leads to the longest hit or the longest throw. So definitely the hand is not moving first. That is the last thing that we want moving. And we've got a couple from Lewis here. The first one is on strike location. How can I move it higher on the face? Louis, we've done a lot of work as one of my clients. We've done a lot of work and a lot of swing changes recently. You've made some great progress, but pretty much the reason why it's probably a little bit low on the face is, one, the changes we did make, and two, your brain is still trying to figure out where the middle of the bat is. So when we make swing changes, our brain is learning a new skill almost, especially if we're doing half swings, and it's trying to convert that to a full golf swing. So our pathways and the way our brain fires our muscles is still trying to find the middle of the bat. So the more we can practice and the more awareness we can get of where we're striking it on the face, the better. So great that you've identified low on the face, but keep working with your drills. See if it builds into a consistency. So if you hit still throughout the next couple of days, it's always low, and then we'll really look at some technical aspects. But at the minute, it could be from a pure motor learning aspect. Thank you, Peter. Hello, Simon Fielding. Hope the kids are keeping you active in this time. I'm sure they are. And we got another one from Lewis. How can I increase flexibility at home? Fantastic question again. Flexibility at home, there's a lot we can do. I'm not going to dive too much into this because keep an eye out on our social media platforms, because we should have a video coming from a strength and conditioning expert. So I can recommend you some exercises, but to be honest, it's not in my best interest. It's not something that I am trained in. I've had a little bit of experience in strength and conditioning, but definitely not to the level that I should be prescribing exercise to people. So keep an eye out on our social media channels over the next few weeks. We should have a video coming to you soon about how you can stay mobile at home, because it is a very, very valid point. We've got another one from Louis. Utilising all the free time we have, how do we utilise that time? Yeah, great. First and foremost, use this time to spend time with family. A lot of us work long hours. We don't get to spend the family time we'd like to. So although some of us they might be doing your head in, try and utilise the free time that you can with them from a non-golf perspective. For me, try to learn a new skill. perhaps is a really good one. So is there something that you've always wanted to do but never had the time? I've seen a lot of people learning an instrument, or pulling out their guitar out of their garage that they haven't touched for 10 days or 10 years. I've got back on my bike, so I've tried to make a bit more of a conscious effort to get on my bicycle and ride around and use my hourly daily exercise well. There's also some skill-based things that we can do which aren't golf related. For example, having a better hand-eye coordination. So doing some drills to improve your hand-eye coordination should help you find the middle of the bat on a more consistent basis, which is good. So doing some hand-eye coordinated drills, ball up against the wall, for example, trying to alternate hands, trying to use different coloured balls and making a colour. Could be something that you could do with the kids as well. There'll be loads of skill-based games online regarding hand-eye coordination, so it might be a really good one to check out. Jacob Geary, one of our county juniors in Norfolk. Is there too much tech involved with golf? Is getting the perfect numbers bad and overcomplicating the game? Fantastic, Jacob. One of the very first things we hear from a lot of not just players, but also coaches as well. We've invested quite heavily in technology, and we wouldn't have done so if we thought we were overcomplicating the game. From a new perspective, I'm still relatively new into golf and my journey into golf. The technology is readily available, and there's a lot of people doing golf specific technology. But the problem with this is that we do get some coaches who take to the technology, pump every number up on the screen and work on 4,000 things at once. Now, when we look at, for example, TrackMan, there's over 25 parameters that we can look at. So if there's that many, we're not going to have 25 up on the screen. We're not going to take you through all of them and show you what they all do. We're going to focus on the ones which will help you the most. In terms of perfect numbers, there definitely is. We're seeing a lot of companies release tour averages, but unfortunately they never have a range to them. So there's, for example, in TrackMan, there's a tour average clubhead speed. At the minute, I think TrackMan says it's around 88 miles an hour with a 7-iron, but we don't know the range of that. So it's impossible to compare that to you. We could have some people swinging at 100 miles an hour with that club. We could have some people swinging at 70 miles an hour with that club, but the average works out in the middle. So it's important that when we look at these so-called perfect numbers, that we identify the range for one. So where are they? And your level compared to their level as well. If we're putting a 36 handicapper up against the Tour Pros numbers, it's probably not going to be close. The Tour Pro's probably going to be a little bit mobile. He's played for 3 times the length. He's practiced for 10 times the amount that this 36 has. So we have to be careful with these so-called perfect numbers. So same with things like club path. When we show people club path, everyone thinks 0-0 is the ultimate club path. Nobody on the planet is swinging it consistently at 0-0. Everyone has a slight left or right tendency in club path, and that includes the best players in the world. So we have to be careful with perfect numbers. As coaches, we can't encourage perfect numbers because we don't live in a perfect world, and we are humans, we make mistakes. If we're looking at Tour Pros, they will be very consistent in their numbers, and it tends to be the consistency of your numbers which is more key than getting the perfect number. So great question, Jacob. To sort of summarize it, there's not too much tech in golf. It's how you use the technology to help you. We look at, even in the short game, we use technology, but we'll do it in a way which is encouraging you to get better. We're not doing it for the sake of pulling quad out into a bunker. We're not doing it for the sake of doing it. We might do it to show you a certain number or to show you how you can improve. Mr. and Mrs. Goddard, we are on to some of the questions that Sully put on to us. So I hope he's listening or practicing, either or. First question from Sully is, would a home launch monitor be good for a junior golfer? This fits in perfectly with the previous question. And Chris and Andy, you're going to love what I'm going to say, because If you have one, will it make you better than a golfer who doesn't have one? No, there's no guarantee that having a home launch monitor will make you better than if somebody doesn't have a launch monitor. Whether it's a TrackMan, whether it's a quad, or whether it's a £200 launch monitor, there's no guarantee that you are going to get better. So that's the good news. You don't have to fork out on one. There's a lot of things that we can do at home which are more beneficial than just smashing golf balls looking at a launch monitor device. So we could learn how to move better, we can learn how to recover better, and we can learn how to eat better. They tend to be the things that golfers who get really good do consistently well, is the things around golf. Now, we know some golfers with some fantastic talent, and Sully definitely is one of those golfers, but we need everything around him to work better and to be better. His golf's exceptional, but can we get him eating better? Can we get him moving better? Can we get him sleeping better? They're always the three key things when we start looking at performance at an elite level. Launch monitors are good if we know what we're doing with them and if you have a goal to work towards. But at the minute, I'm going to say no. So good news, guys. You're welcome. And putting mats for home. Have I got any recommendations? I've got 2 putting mats, very cheap ones off Amazon, where they're raised slightly at the end for the cup. They're just felt putting mats. They do a pretty good job. I've heard good things about the putt out mat. Apparently that rolls the ball really well, although I've never used one. If anyone's watching who has any putting mats, which are really good, just pop them in the chat and hopefully we'll be able to get some recommendations to you. And now we've got some from Scott Seeley, podcast recommendations. Have I got any? Yes, I have. I'm a bit of a podcast listener. Something to do on the way to work, normally when we're not in lockdown. I listen to a lot from Altus Performance. They have an Earn Your Edge podcast, which has a lot of the tour pros on, and they give their experiences of how they first started getting into golf, when they started getting better, what were some of the key things they learned along the way. They also hold some with coaches as well, so coaches unveil some of their secrets, which is great. And those guys train a couple of really good tour pros, so they do know what they're talking about. Jordan Spieth is their main sort of poster boy, if you like. No Laying Up do a great series of podcasts. A good group of guys who just love golf, talk to tour pros, talk to coaches, very much more on a personal basis, not just from a golf performance aspect, but learning more about them, what they do in their spare time, what are some of their career highlights. If you want to learn more about golf, one of the coaches listen to that we encourage is the Golf Guru Show with Jason Sutton. That is fantastic. He has loads of coaches on, and they go through some of their swing ideas, some of their swing thoughts, how they've helped people around the world. And 18 Strong is another company that does a really good set of podcasts too. So there are a few of my recommendations. Next from Scott is, what's the best way to structure, practice and measure progress with no technology? Once again, another great question regarding technology. It's only accessible as much as you make it accessible. So not everyone at home is obviously going to have a launch monitor, a pressure plate and a 3D vest. That is mainly going to be when you come and see us. My best recommendation is find out what you need to work on, whether it is something from a launch monitor in regards to your paths, your faces, attack angles, how you swing the club, whether it be how your body moves in 3D or how your pressure reacts in the floor. Work out what you need to work on if it is a swing movement from one of those 3 areas, and work on it through a structured program based on that, whether it be some drills, or it might not be related to any of them. It might be more of a skill-based structure. So where are you currently losing shots compared to everyone else of your handicap and the next handicap? Where might you be gaining shots compared to the rest? And try and figure out how you can practice them better. So if we're looking at greens in regulation, for example, what clubs are you missing green and regs with? How can you work actively on that? Where are you missing the green and reg? Is it short? Is it long? Is it left? Is it right? Is it through decision making? So we can start to break down more into a funneled approach. If you just try and practice just hitting balls and try and hit different shot shapes, that is a good way to practice, but I'd much rather someone target their practice with a little bit more energy in the right way. So how I'd recommend is going to see someone with some technology and letting them help you identify which area you need to improve on. Learn lots from them, learn some drills from them to help you improve that area. Go away and measure it using statistics, perhaps using some drills on the driving range, how you're seeing the flight of the ball, and then feed that back to them. So it's definitely something that we've done together. You can also measure certain parameters from our tech at the driving range or with us in a normal lesson. So if we, for example, are talking face angle, we know roughly what face angle accounts to start direction is from TrackMan. And if we set 2 gates up or 2 alignment sticks up for us to hit the golf ball through, if we set them up at a certain distance and at a certain angle, then we can work out what club path that would be through trigonometry. So we could do that if we were really keen to understand a little bit more about our club numbers. Also is how do we manage personal expectations against goals in 2020 after COVID-19 goes away? Excellent question. The biggest key here about managing personal expectations against your goals is, are your goals realistic? Do they follow the SMART principles? If you do not know anything about setting yourself some goals and managing personal expectations, and then you need to learn and find out about it quite quickly. So setting goals, we need to follow what we call a SMART principle. So that's specific, measurable, achievable or attainable, realistic, and the time bound as well. So realistic is a really good idea. It has to be realistic, if not you're never going to achieve it. And follow those principles and you should be quite close. Obviously there is going to be a slight drop off for us all when we get back to normal golf. Unfortunately we're not all going to play well on the first weekend. There's going to be more people playing bad than there is good, but what we can do during lockdown, doing some of the drills recommended, or what we can do when we get back, is make sure we practice with a good purpose and make sure we have some good goals in place. Another one that come through emails from Simon is grips. He was asking about a general guidance on grips. A lot of his friends have a fatter grip on their clubs, and he was saying that his left hand does not grip as well to his right hand. First step in that question for me is figuring out why you're having some imbalances between what feels like grip in left and right hand. Is this a limitation of you as a person? Is it to do with your grips? Is it to do with tension? A lot of people like to go to a thicker grip in their clubs because it tends to reduce the tension that you put onto the grip. So you tend to grip it quite lighter. Rob done a really good blog on optimal grip size for you and how to find that out. So I suggest you go and read that on our website. You go onto our website, peterfieldgolf.co.uk. On the main pane at the top is a blog section. And if you scroll back through, you'll see Rob's, which is, I believe, titled Optimal Grip Size. Rob, you might want to stick that in the chat because that's really, really good. From one of my clients, Joe Schulberg. Confidence obviously plays a part in addressing the golf ball. What are some of the other key mental skills you need to practice in your pre-shot routine? Fantastic question. You can tell his best mate is a sports psych. Pre-shot routine is hugely important. The biggest issue in the literature at the minute for golf is a pre-shot routine. When does it start? So does it start when we first get to the golf ball, we put our bag down off our shoulders, or we park our trolley up and we stand there and look at the golf hole? Is that the start of it? Some people say yes, some people say no. The guys that say no say it starts when you actually stand over the golf ball and you have some sort of intention ready to hit it. So that's what the classic address phase. For me, when I'm looking at pre-shot routines, I want to look at when you first put your clubs down, before you've even got the bag off your back, before you've pressed the stop button on your trolley, what are the processes you are going to be going through to help you hit a good golf shot here? Because no one intentionally hits a bad shot, no one intentionally hits it into the wrong spot, but our decision making along the way might have had a little bit of a bad step in there somewhere, whether that be from an environment perspective, whether that be from a club choice perspective, or whether it be from a lie perspective. There's loads of decisions that can go wrong, and there's a lot of decisions we've got to make correctly. In terms of mental skills, I'm mainly looking at how focused you are. Visualization is talked a lot about in the literature, but unfortunately I've spoke with a lot of sports psychs at the top of their game in other sports and said when they've actually introduced visualization and mental imagery to their elite athletes that they've actually really struggled to learn it. It's a difficult skill. We hear Jack Nicklaus talk about it a lot, saying how he pitches every shot going through the air at the right shot shape in the right window. And personally for me as well, I really struggle with that, and that's why I was intrigued to ask and learn more about it, because people had told me that's what I need to do, but I just can't see the ball going through the air. I can't imagine it. For somewhat in my head, it doesn't quite work. So imagery is used a lot in the literature, but something that is difficult. And for me, it's finding what you best need and how we can help train that and how we can incorporate that into a routine. So are you making consistently bad decisions, whether that be are you picking the right club, are you using the right club for your lie, are you analysing the conditions well enough? So it could be some of those things. It could be when you get over the golf ball, how confident are you feeling is a massive one, like you said. How focused are you taking in everything else, or are you very internal? It's very personal to you, and the key is finding what one are you weaker at or better at. Now we have another one of my clients, Kevin. Am I, me personally, Lewis, am I technically better right or left-handed? You teach right-handed, but you play left-handed. Yes, I am lefty. I am a left-sided person. Every other sport I've played, I've been left-handed or left-footed in, and I've played quite a lot of sport. I do hold the club right-handed when I teach, because if I hold it left-handed, it looks a bit weird for you. So often I'm doing some practice swings or showing you the movements in right hand, but also I show a lot of movements in left hand as well. So if you, as the camera, if you're swinging away going in that direction, as a lefty, I'm also hitting into that direction if I was hitting the ball as well. So we mirror each other. So I can show you some moves if I can get into that move in the first place, because not all of our golf swings are perfect, and mine definitely isn't. So I can show you the move that I might want you to get into, and you can mirror it lefty. But I do hold the club often quite right-handed. I can chip right-handed. I could probably putt right-handed. My chipping right-handed is getting better. I definitely couldn't hit driver right-handed though. So technically left hand all day long. Be interesting. We were going to have a right hand or weak hand challenge off at the shop, but that's gone a bit quiet. So everyone hammer Rob and get him to get his lefty skills out, get him practicing. Another one from this one's from my dad. Golf ball, what's best for you? He's always chopping and changing golf ball, mainly because he's losing them so quickly. But the best golf ball for you is a very personal decision, based on what you would like to see, what you'd like to feel, and what you want from your game. So is it something, do you need a lower spinning ball off the tee? Do you need something that's a bit softer around the greens for your feel? Do you need something that's going to provide you a little bit of spin when you're putting and chipping? That is unfortunately a question that only you can find out. We can help you, guide you down that route, and we can recommend you a golf ball based on when we've seen you in fitting or based on when we've coached you. But for me personally, I pick a golf ball based on what I chip and putt well with. I use Srixon Z-Star. I've always, since I first started using it, one of the shop lads, Alex, that got me into using the ball first. He said they were quite soft around the greens. I played Chrome Soft, and I do like Chrome Soft ball. Chrome Soft X with the triple track is lovely. But the Z Star for me, I chip the best with and putt the best with. And for those 2 points, if I can do them too well, I'm probably going to play pretty good golf. I just got to figure out how to get off the tee then, which is a bit of a struggle, but we'll get there. But the best ball for you is one that is firstly in your price bracket. So are you willing to lose £3.50 a golf ball? Yes or no? If that answer is yes, we can start looking at premium. Then we can go through those options. If the answer is no, then we can look at some of the other options on the market will be best suited for you. So it's definitely something we can do. Fantastic. There's some of the questions we got from social media. I've seen some, and emails. I've seen some pop up as we're going along, which is fantastic. So I'm just going to scroll through them now. Let's have a little look. Sam, first we'll start with yours. Oh, just made them go away. Hang on. Sam, yours was with red. Am I right? With, oh, there you go. I play often with men at Bungie and enjoy playing off the whites. It gives me a different perspective and club selection for the second and third shot. Would you encourage this for a change, or should I just stick to playing from the reds? Great question. Playing from the reds will give you an advantage, yes. But also, if you play from the whites, it definitely adds a different challenge for you. Now, you're going to be placing a lot of emphasis on your long game, which means that that will improve. But is that going to therefore sort of disencourage you playing your 100 yards and in shots more or less? I don't know. I don't know how far you hit the golf ball. But it is definitely going to make you make better challenges, better decisions when you hit your second shot, because you're either got to leave yourself a good yardage or you're hitting a long club into the green. Round Bungie, there can be some long holes off those white tees. So if you're all for the challenge and you fancy something different, then 100% go for it. Why not? And if you can take some money in the meantime, yeah, even better. Golf and YouTube channels do I follow? Recommendations. Tom, good question. We talk a lot about YouTube golf, and it's something that we hear a lot is who would you follow on YouTube? Personally, and recommendation wise, this is somewhere where we have to be really careful, because there's a lot of coaches out there who are appealing to the mass market and are looking for clicks, because that's how you earn money on YouTube. So if you see a heading which says something like fix your slice in one easy step, guess what? It's probably not going to fix your slice in one easy step. There's probably a lot of other things that are going wrong. Also, with YouTube videos, be careful that that video might not be aimed at you specifically. So the swing fix that they say is going to work for you may only work for 5 out of 100 golfers. But for those 5, it may work. And that's how they build such a good empire. Out of the most popular ones, the one that I like probably the most, although still I'm quite balanced on, is Mark Crossfield. I find him very opinionated, which is sometimes brilliant, sometimes not so good. I don't agree with his fitting principles of shaft has no matter. Personally, I see it every day. Shaft has a massive influence on how you perform with a golf club. So does the head and the CG, so does loft. But some of his coaching principles I actually do really agree with. He's definitely moved away from fixing people's swings in one easy video. He's definitely moved more towards how are we going to help people get better, and how are we going to look at case studies, how are we going to engage with other coaches to help golf. My recommendation for YouTube is have a look at some top class coaches from around the world. So coaches that are very, very good, or coaches even from us, from even in our shop. Have a look at some of our YouTube videos. Our videos, we try and not make them mass market, here's how you fix your slice. It will be more an insight into some of our coaching technology, an insight into how to hit a difficult shot, for example, a long bunker shot, some of the basic setup fundamentals. No one is not going to play that shot better from that video. And also just giving you a chance to show you what we do on a daily basis. But recommendations is go and follow some guys on YouTube who are world-class coaches. James Ridyard's put a load of free content. Me and Rob went to see him recently. He's done a fantastic job of putting out some really good content in the short game area. We've also got loads of guys in that top 100 list who do put stuff on social media as well. So Mark Blackburn's just done quite a lot of stuff on YouTube. So there's a lot of stuff out there. I can't comment on every individual one because I don't watch a lot of people. I've been put off by some. So if you're ever in doubt, let one of us know what I think of a video or what I think of a clip, and I'll have a look for you. Sana, hope you are well. I hope everything is well for you. I don't quite know where you'll be in the world at the minute, but I hope everything's good. Here we go. Ever since you've told me to make my posture more upright, my game has gotten better, my ball strike has improved. Fantastic. Dingo do, that's a good start. A lot of major winners in the past include Jack Nicklaus, Ben Hogan, Arnie Palmer, Bobby Jones, Gary Player, all stood in upright C postures. When did the modern bent over posture become the textbook athletic address? Fantastic question, Sana, and it's something that we challenge on a daily basis. So what Sana is talking about, if I move this chair out of the way, is, I'll go right hand. Here we go. Here's my right hand skills. This way. That's the right way. So what Sana is talking about is previously we used to see a lot of people quite well relaxed and if anything have a rounded shoulders and get in this slightly unorthodox, doesn't look very athletic, looks quite a weak position. But now we're seeing more golfers, if you picture Adam Scott or Rory, tuck their shoulder blades back, bend over from the hip and get in this so-called athletic position. Some people refer this as a goalkeeper position as well. Now, the biggest issue with this position is that it's very good at going laterally. So if you think of a goalkeeper, you put all of your weight on your toes and bend over into that goalkeeper position, you can move laterally, side to side, really well. Now, in the golf swing, we don't always want to move laterally. We want to move rotationally. Now, for the most of us, we're not all major winning athletes like Rory McIlroy and Adam Scott, who are ripped, they move fantastic, and they do all of the bits around golf like what we spoke about really well. So they eat well, they sleep well, and they move extremely well. So from this position, they can turn and create a full rotation back and down really well. Now, we can't do that. Most of us can't do that. So if we get into a more relaxed position where we're more upright and we can now start to turn, that's when I can certainly feel it here. I'm now way more mobile than I was in this bent over position trying to turn. That's really pulling on my hip extensors and all of my hip flexors as well. That's creating a lot of strain in an area I don't want strain. So when did this all move? To be honest, I don't know. I don't know when this change occurred. And if we look at baseball players or other rotational athletes, none of them start in this perfectly bent position of 90 degrees and a flat back. Baseballers start very arched and very rounded. Throwers of QBs, they start from a rounded position and upright. They definitely don't start bent and try to turn on a backward angle. So I don't really know where it started. Probably Tiger had a massive influence in it because that was his posture. And everyone says how brilliant Adam Scott's swing looks. Yes, his swing is fantastic. It looks fantastic, but is it viable to the everyday athlete? No, it is not. So he moves better than he's in the 1% of movers worldwide, golf or non-golf. So he can move and do that well. But most people do need to be in a more upright position, get their armpits over their heels or over their midfoot, not over their toes. If you want to learn more about it, I'd encourage you reading up on some of George Gankis's GG Golf, some of his work. We were on a webinar with him yesterday and he was talking about that position. So he's very big on making his players look relaxed and if anything upright. That helps their turn. As soon as you get the turn right, a lot of good things are going to happen. But fantastic question, Sana. Hope you are well. Sam, I use Game Golf a lot. Do you think this is a useful app? Yes, Game Golf gives us loads of fantastic data points. It's a really good tool to analyse your game. The biggest question with it is what are you looking at and why are you looking at it Are you spending too much time looking at the wrong numbers? Is the accuracy of the data 100%? All of these we have to kind of ask ourselves. So if it's driven by a certain goal, I'm all for statistic-based golf, from Game Golf, from Arccos. Game Golf's at a fantastic price point as well. We sell it in the shop and it does do really well. And as a coach, I can look at your data on every time you play golf, you can send it to me. So it is fantastic for that. But are we spending too many times worrying about the wrong numbers? We could potentially get lost in all the statistics. But if we want to track, if we're working on your driving, for example, and we want to track how your driving's going currently, we can do that using Game Golf in a live environment. And that is the best thing about these statistics. When you play golf is when you play golf. You don't play golf on the driving range. The driving range is for practice. So we have to be careful when we look at statistics based on the driving range, because it is practice. So statistics we can get based on your game is really good. Joe, fantastic. Cheers, Lewis. Agree with imagery. Not good for a perfectionist. Agreed. I feel you there. Not hitting the exact shot you picture can demotivate 100%. And that's where I struggle with it. So I see lovely soft high draw going through this flight window, and then I hit it at the bottom groove anyway and it goes low left. Well, great, that is pretty demotivating. And even if I hit a good shot to a good target, it might not have been the flight I wanted. So definitely can be quite demotivating. For me, I was more struggling with picturing it, and then I'm sort of staring into the sky trying to picture this ball flight like I feel like I'm wasting time because I can't see it. I don't really know what I'm doing. And then I was getting over the ball not comfortable because what I'd just done felt like a waste of time. So for me, there's a lot of better things that you can do. I'm always trying to stay focused, especially if I hit a few bad shots. I assume this is where Spoonie's going to pipe up and say something about me hitting good golf shots. But I always try and stay focused. I try and get back into the zone, if you like, this so-called optimal zone. For me, that involves a bit more deep breathing and keeping a good pace of play up, not rushing but not taking too much time. And if I can do those, I'm going to be pretty good. If I'm playing with people, I always try and be a little bit chatty. If I'm quiet, it's normally not a good sign. I'm normally focused elsewhere. I'm normally sort of daydreaming off a little bit. If I'm playing with people, I tend to be quite chatty, because that tends to, between the golf ball, I can then zone out a little bit. Then when I get back onto the golf ball, I can get back in. So that tends to be one of the things that I'm doing. The Masters or the British Open? What is your favourite and why? First of all, there isn't a British Open. I 100% agree with you, Howard. It is a Open. It is the Open, not the British Open. It's the one thing I hate in golf, the British Open. I don't know if you knew I'd nibble on that or not, but I did anyway, so we're going with it. What's my favourite? Oh, God. I don't know. I'm going to leave that to the chat to decide. I don't know, Harry. The Masters is special. It's so special. It's the one tournament I'd love to go to, and a bit of a bucket list to go to Augusta. The one thing I do love about the British Open, it does change. Augusta looks unreal, but the British Open going to different parts of the UK and setting up a huge area for 2 weeks is fantastic. Seeing everyone come from and compete around the world, to come and go to Kent, for example, at George's, or use some of the Scottish examples, the Irish examples we had last year, I think makes it very unique. I love the style of golf that the Open is. I love when it gets challenging. I love to see the tour guys struggle, if I'm being honest, because it makes them look a bit more real. The US Open is fantastic. I love the US Open. When they played at Shinnecock and the greens were like glass and everyone was shooting like high 70s, 80s, I thought was like the best round I've ever watched. All the golfers moaning after. Some of them got on with it, some of them hated it, so they missed the cut. The guys that got on with it and accepted that they weren't going to make birdies, they were probably going to make bogeys, tend to play the best that week. So I do love a more challenging golf. If Augusta plays difficult, the wind gets up and the tees get longer and they start tucking pins away, that's when the Masters is great viewing. Back nine Sunday on the Masters, it gets pretty special. Peter, from around 20 or 30 yards from the green, or maybe slightly further, what is a quick tip to hit the shot that bounces a couple of times and then stops dead? Hopefully close to the hole. Yep, I feel you. So we see this a lot played from the tour guys. Very rarely do they go high. They normally skip it in low, 2 hops, and they get it to stop quickly. Couple of key factors before we even talk technique here is what green you're playing on. If you're playing on a green which has a lot of grass growth, they're not very receptive, and they're very slow, the ball's not going to spin, it's not going to stop, it's not going to grab. So that is a huge factor. Also, if they're really firm and really bouncy with no receptive, they're not going to stop. So there's a couple of considerations there. The lie is really important. If you're coming off a tight lie, so there's no grass whatsoever, like link style, you are going to create more spin because you can create more friction. Nothing gets stuck between the ball and the club. There's a clean interaction. If we're coming out of the rough or somewhere that's a bit more grassy and it's wet, the friction interaction it hinders, so we can't get that spin. So that's why the tour guys look very good at times, because the greens are ultra receptive, they're cut really sharp, and a lot of their runoff areas are also cut really sharply as well. So leading up to the green, some of their runoff areas will be as good as some of the greens we play on. How do you play the shot if all the conditions are ticked and you're playing at a lovely golf course and it checks really well? We need your launch window to be under 30 degrees, so it's quite a low launch. We need a lot of speed. We don't necessarily need the cleanness of strikes. We can still get it a little bit fat, but we definitely need under 30 degrees and a lot of speed. And if you can get those 2 things right, you should be able to add a little bit of grab. So your land angle will go lower, and then it will pitch with a bit more fire. It will jump in and then check, hopefully on the 2nd or 3rd. Really good shot to learn if the pin's tucked at the back, because the last place you want to be doing is going over the back. So you can pitch it middle to front, let it hop and stop a couple of times. Good if you're going up the slope. Instead of trying to pitch it all the way there and go really high, you can pitch it short, get it running up the slope, then check it. If you can play it, fantastic shot to have, but a difficult shot. What golf course in the UK would you say is a must to play for any golfer? Balborough Golf Club. Oh look, Harry said Balborough Golf Club. Couldn't agree more, Chris. Harry. BGC 100%. Is the must to play for any golfer. I'm going to say St Andrews. I think that's a special venue, the home of golf. I think I've never played it. I've been there. I've sat in the singles queue at 5 o'clock in the morning with a flight pending in the evening. I sat there and didn't quite get to the end. I was left at number 1. I had the next ticket. If somebody didn't turn up, I was there. I was on the first tee, and unfortunately I had to leave at 1:30 to get my transfer. So unfortunately I didn't get to play it, but being there was such a special experience. The golf course, from what I heard, some of the guys in the queue had played it before. They were over from the States, but they'd played it a couple of years prior, and they played it 3 times. They said the first time it was actually really, really boring, but it was after they started learning the golf course, and when they started re-watching some of the Open highlights over the years, and so many good memories, was when it really becomes special. So I'm going to go St Andrews. That's what I'm going to go with, just for its special nature. Not Balborough Golf Club. I love Balborough, Harry, but I don't think so. Not in the UK. In Norfolk, we'll let you have it. Colin, hope you're well. Hi Lewis, just a quick question. Senior practice swing. How come when addressing the ball, your left leg foot is about 9 inches backwards? Cloud Clipper, Colin. I am... How come my left foot is... it's open a little bit. It's my natural foot position. So even if I rest my foot still on this chair, it goes left. My whole foot wants to externally rotate and wants to go onto the outside of my foot. I've got seriously flat feet. like one of the flattest that somebody's ever measured, a clinician has ever measured. So that's why I wear quite big. That's why my feet look quite big, because they're so flat. And the way my ankle is positioned actually puts me in a bit of eversion. So if I stand and have my feet perfectly straight, for me it feels very unbalanced. Whereas if I have both feet slightly open, I feel in a much more centered position. So very personal. Dr. Scott Lynn, who we know from Swing Catalyst, actually done a study on whether you have your foot at 0 degrees all the way up to 90 degrees, what that affects in terms of swing and how well you turn. And it turns out it affects pretty much sod all. So the idea of having your foot more open to increase turn, for some people works, but for the majority is proven to not work. So it's what feels comfortable for you. Once again, we see a range of tall players. Tony Finau has that front foot so wide open, and it's just from a more comfortable perspective. Tom, also for the lads asking about launch monitors, not to detract from Lewis's answer, but I've got the Garmin G80, fantastic bit of kit, very well reviewed. Reads slightly under on my mid irons, but everything else seems spot on. Yeah, fantastic. Its primary function is GPS, great, so that's what it does well. But it does say that it does do some launch monitor numbers as well. Another one of my clients has just got one. He loves it. At the price point, it seems like a pretty good buy, but nothing will ever be going to use a TrackMan or a quad. How do you stop bombing at 350 down the wrong fairway, Harry? Not quite sure, pal. Stop trying to hit fade, that's for sure. So, in fact, Harry, since you've called yourself out, we'll call you out as well. So, interesting case study with Harry using tech is Harry was trying to hit fade off the tee, and that was his meant to be go-to shot. Turns out it was not a go-to shot because his swing numbers suggested that he should do everything except hit fade. So Harry hits up on it quite considerably off the tee, and he also hits it slightly inside. Now, we have this wonderful thing called swing direction in golf, and Harry's swing direction is different to club path. Harry's swing direction was always right because he was hitting up on it so much and because he was swinging inside. So if you swing inside, you hit up, the ball should do nothing but draw. So we encouraged him next time we went out and played to only hit soft draw, try and hit soft draw down every time he hit driver, and he said it was the best he'd ever hit driver apparently. I find it hard to believe, but he actually did hit it better, so that's good. That was exactly what we needed from him. Don't try and hit fade if your numbers don't go that way. Very important note from the Tour Pro perspective is the tour guys shape it both ways. They tend to only shape it one way, and they shape it that way very, very well. Not that many people tend to do it both ways. That's a very unique trait. Matt Wolff, for example, with his driver, fades it, but with his irons draws it. That's his comfortable matchup. Very rarely crosses the both over. Right, a couple more questions. So if you've got any more, fire them in now. Sana, why does a flat backswing sometimes lead to overswinging? Sometimes it does. I also see a lot of guys who get it very upright swing it over as well. So the guys that get their hands super high. The main things I see from overswinging is either a bad tilt in body. So how well their body tilts tends to be a massive factor for overswinging or underswinging, and also how much wrist movement is happening in ulnar and radial. So if we have a little bit of ulnar, it will tend to get overswinging quite quickly, so that way is ulnar. And also if we bend this arm, that tends to be able to get it long. So if I swing righty here and bend this elbow and then go into ulnar here, and then very quickly you can see from the way my thumb's pointing, it's going way behind my back. If I stretch this arm and get it straighter, there we go into less ulnar, then very quickly you can see the club's going to be at this angle and not back and behind my head. So flat, we do see people get over, but it doesn't tend to be from being flat. It tends to be from some other areas as well, including body tilts. Jeff Brown, welcome. The Big Cheese, Barbara Golf Club, Clubhouse Manager Jeff Brown is probably his title. I don't quite know. Have you got a question for us, Jeff? Any more questions? We're going to go for another couple of minutes. Fire them in. But it's been some really good points there. And if any of you have got anything that you'd like to know more on, feel free to hit us up on our social media, whether it be our personal social media, the shop's personal media, shop's personal social media, there you go, or our own, so it doesn't have to be me. I'm sure the coaches and some of the shop staff would be more than happy to get in contacted by as well. We tend to have all of our own accounts. Harry, what spice am I ordering at Nando's? I'm a plain guy, mate. Sorry, pal. I'm a plain Jane. I don't do spice. I'm not very cultured, I think is the best term. How do I work on a stronger lower posture? Okay, big G-Dog Brown, fantastic question. Stronger lower posture. Are you talking below, or hips and below? Are you talking hips? Are you talking below the chest? Can you define it? And then hopefully I'll be able to give you a good answer. But great question. For those that don't know Jeff absolutely bombs it. Absolutely bombs it. I've seen swing speeds of Jeff in the 120s with not golf shoes on as well, with smart shoe brogues, I believe they were. Below hips. Okay, so leg work. How do I make it, do you say, stronger? So how your legs and how your knees in particular work is going to have a massive influence on the rest of your golf swing. But the biggest thing here is the knees need to work in a way which is going to shift your pressure the best. So this is where we'd get you on swing cap and we'd have a look at which dominant foot you are, and that would influence what we'd recommend for your knees to work and how your pressure should shift. Now, if we want your pressure shifting more backwards into your rear foot and into your heel, that's going to affect what we want our trail and lead knee to do. If we want your pressure going forward, that will go into your knees differently as well. So unfortunately, I would love to give you a one size fits all answer, but it all depends on what best pressure trait is for you, and that will affect how you get your knees working. If you're trying to stiffen them up just to make your lower half more still, and then you can maybe work on some PNF based activities through cables and through resistance bands. But there's not many people we'd do resistance for in that department. You'd have to be a very good mover. Serious Q, here we go, Harry. For guys who ain't practicing and get bored easy, start hitting stingers at buckets, etc. Yeah, talking for yourself there. What is the best approach to driving range practice that I recommend? Setting a goal is the best one I can recommend by miles. Whether it's a game or a goal, they're the two ones. So a goal could be, I want to shape my driver better. So how you shape your driver is going to influence how you play golf. That's your goal for the driving range. Now, you've now got to take that goal and learn how to do it without hitting stingers pretty much, and hitting at buckets. So how you can take that onto the driving range is hugely important. But setting a goal will definitely help you get in the right direction. When we start looking at some really, really good golfers, they tend to get bored very easily at the driving range because their driving range session tends to go well. They tend to hit the middle of the bat. They tend to hit a lot of targets. So then we can start incorporating games and make the games harder or easier, make them point-based and make them competitive. So actually, George Gankus shared us one yesterday on his podcast that he always used to play with Matt Wolf. And it was all about short siding, long siding, and side to side. So he had a target at, say, 180 yards was the first number, but the first ball had to go 180, then the next ball had to go 160, then the next ball had to go 170, then the next ball had to go 165. So he was working at one end of the long spectrum, then he was working at the short end, then he was working in from there. And the idea was not just to train yardages, but was to make sure that he never short sides himself and never puts him on the wrong side of a pin, which is huge. Because if you can do that at the level that he's playing golf at, he's got to hole a lot of putts eventually from 15, 20 feet. And he's also not going to make many mistakes. If you can play bogey-free golf, you're going to score pretty well. Another area is, setting those games is really going to help. There's loads of skill-based games. We've got loads for you based on what you want to work on, whether it be short game, long game, wedging at 80 yards, or driving, or irons, whichever you'd like to do. We've got loads of games, so feel free to get in touch. Best way to transfer range practice to the golf course. Fantastic question, one that we hear a lot. The best way to transfer it is make sure your driving range session is good. There's no magic ingredient where you're going to do a driving range session, you stripe the golf ball, and then you're going to walk onto the course feeling ecstatic and smashing it. It's very rare, and I'm sure a lot of people can also say, out of the guys in here, that when there could be a driving range session where you warm up, you absolutely stripe it, and then you step on the first tee and hit it sideways. Or vice versa, you hit shank, top, thin on the range before, and you go, oh my God, I'm going to play terrible today. And you actually step out on the course and play well. That is an expectation-based problem. So your expectation once you've ripped it at the driving range is to go out and play good golf, and therefore you probably don't play good golf. Because you're riding high, you're too much, your arousal levels are too high, you get too excited, you start hitting the wrong shots, swing goes, tempo goes, you're in trouble. Whereas vice versa, you walk to the golf course, you've got low expectation, it's a free pass for you to play good golf because you're not expecting to play golf. So it's a free pass for you to go, I can shoot 109 today, and that's how I played on the range. It's almost an excuse that you can give to your mates when you enter the bar after. So your brain is free, you've got a free mind to go play golf, you actually play quite well, you rip it up. So short answer is, how do you transfer practice, range practice onto the course, is get better at your mental skills, get better at your goals, get better at your expectations. That's the best for me. Best way to work on improving your pace on the greens. Fantastic, Jeff. One of the very good drills is that you need to get there early, to the golf course to get your better pace on the day. A lot of the skills we hear from top coaches, putting coaches, is based on not hitting towards a hole. So a lot of them put a ghost hole on the green. So it's not a hole, it's not going to go into the hole. And all they're trying to do is die it into the cup. Now, when we put a hole in the actual ground and we try and aim towards that, we've got a flag stick in on the putting green, we can ram it in at 3 different speeds and they all could go in. And our brain is saying, well done, the golf ball's gone in the hole, and has gave us a perfect feedback score. But what our brain hasn't learned is how quick the greens are, because one's smashed the pin and one's died straight in the pin. So what we also see is a lot of, instead of ghost holes, we see people use tees in. So they just put a tee in the ground of the putting green, and they putt towards it, and they're trying to die it into the tee, hit it really softly into the tee. That's a recommended way of learning your pace. Another good skill game is putting a object, say a foot behind the hole, 2 foot behind the hole, and if you hit that stick, you lose a point. If you're short of the hole, you lose a point because no one wants to leave a putt short. So if you hit it in that perfect window of you haven't holed it, but you haven't gone 2 foot past, then you don't lose any points. If you hold it, you gain 1. So that's another good game for you to play. Always varying it up, never putting from the same point multiple times, making a consistent routine of going around the hole, not just going from the same point. Pace could come from other technical areas as well. So one that I learnt recently, and one that I found in my own golf game, is that my pace was actually really bad. I couldn't control pace, not because of what I wasn't practicing it enough, but mainly because I had the wrong loft on my putter. So my putter had too much loft, which meant it was really difficult to get the ball rolling, which meant that on different greens my speed was all over the place. So it could be technical as well, could be custom fitting. and it also could be just lack of practice. But best way to work on improving it is mainly I'd encourage you to not putt to a hole and try and die it next to the hole. Hope that makes sense. Right, we'll wrap it up there then. Thank you all for joining. If you've got any ideas of what you'd like to see on our social media channels over the next few weeks, please don't be afraid to get in touch through social media or through emails. Whichever works for you is best. But we've got a couple of things lined up, so please stay tuned. That would be really helpful. Oh, we've got one coming from Simon. Here we go. Hi, mate. Are there things to bear in mind when moving from driving range mat to grass? Fantastic. Well, divots on grass, but not on mats. That is fantastic. Massive thing here, Simon. Something we talk a lot about to clients and something they feedback to us. If your mat is super tight, really close to the ground, and there's no feedback in it, then typically your golf swing over time is going to get more shallow. So yes, massive difference between mat and grass. Also, mat gives you the perfect lie in terms of golf ball to grass, or to the mat artificial grass, is perfect. So it's perfectly flat, there's nothing in the way. As soon as you get on grass, your slope tends to go one way or the other in the 4 dimensions it can go, or it tends to have a little bit of grass behind it, it tends to sit on a little bit of grass, there tends to be in a divot, whatever it may be. It's always varying. So it's mainly about, can you transfer it across from a mat? A mat is great for long technical practice, because it is a perfect principle, but then taking that technical aspect onto the grass, learning how to hit off various lies, and learning how to hit that ball cleanly is really important. We're very lucky at Norwich Family Golf Centre. We've got 2 ends that we can hit grass off, from the left and from the right, at varying lies as well. So a little bit of a different slope on either side, and definitely some different lies. The grass is quite thick there, which means that we can get some balls sitting up lovely. We can sit them down a little bit. We can put them in a divot, see if we can still strike it. But we do hear it a lot is, oh, I'm hitting it well at the range, but I'm not hitting it very well when I get onto the grass. Well, you've got to try and understand off a mat when you're hitting it actually good. Are you hitting it fat? Are you hitting it thin? Are you actually hitting it good? Don't look at the golf ball and the golf ball outcome, because when you get on the grass, that'll be well put across. I think I've done a blog on it really early on. So once again, go on the website. It's one of the first blogs that we wrote. We're on like Coaching Newsletter 30 something now, or ridiculous. So it's one of the first we watched. Thanks, Ashley Miners. Great to see you. Hope you are well. I assume the golf trip got cancelled. Gutted. Ashley's just bought a lovely set of clubs, just like Tom did, and unfortunately, global crisis came. Unfortunately for everyone, so they can't use them at the time. But we'll be ready to roll when they are ready, and we'll definitely get a game in soon. Cool, so we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, if you've got any questions, any ideas for us on social media over the next couple of weeks, let us know. We've been busy learning some new skills, learning how to further our services to you guys. So if you have got any thing that you'd like to know more about, or any questions, then let us know. If not, we will see you all soon. Please stay safe, be responsible, and if we do have any key workers in here, keep doing your fantastic jobs. Thank you very much.